My name's Hunter Robinson. I'm from Brantford, Ontario. I live in Toronto now, and I have been tattooing for about 9 years, give or take. I try to do all styles, sort of, aside from portraiture, but I like to do, neo-traditional, new school, illustrative styles like that, both color, black and gray. I was mostly raised by a single mom, and I was an only child too until I was 16. I didn't have a sibling, so we actually did a lot of crafts and art all the time. Kind of, it was like a good way, I guess, to keep me entertained. And then all through school, I was always really into art, creative fields and stuff, and all my electives were always art and music in high school. And I took extracurricular life drawing courses and just spent a lot of time, having fun with my friends, but absorbing media a lot, a lot of film, music, video games, and then that inspired me to want to do that stuff myself. So I went to school for like graphic design and animation, and eventually I found tattooing and was like, oh, this is awesome, it's kind of like graffiti on people. In college, some of my teachers were really awesome. Like one of them worked on like the heavy metal magazine in the 80s, or I guess I don't know how early he started in it, but anyway, he worked on the film and stuff like that, and brought in like the original cells for us to study, and so that got me really into like I don't know, more like fantasy art and stuff, more like weird fringy things rather than the graphic design that I learned formally, And then so I started getting into just more weird art, and then I started getting tattoos. And then once I started getting tattoos, I was just like fascinated by the whole process, I guess. And it's funny because like client work is client work sometimes. Like if you're a graphic designer, you have to go back and forth with clients, make designs for them. Sometimes they're great, sometimes they're frustrating, and you got to like have that whole part of yourself that's, I don't know, that client-facing self. And so that translates really well to tattooing, and it just felt like, hey, I'm here getting tattoos all the time. I should just, I'm going to do art for a living anyway, I might as well just try to tattoo. And I got in at a good time, thankfully, because now the market's really oversaturated, but I got in, I think, at a good spot, because now it's like a lot of people are starving out there, but I have all my clients from way back,
I tattooed her once. The joke is that you never tattoo your boyfriend or girlfriend ever if you're a tattoo artist. You always just go to the end of the line, I think,
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, I'm tired today. Are you sure?
Well, that's the thing, is you talked about doing my arm like this before we started dating.
Yeah, this is a couple of years of me.
Yeah, I don't know. And I was bartending, really. And I was trying to become a tattoo artist. And I would draw at the bar on slow nights, this place in Kensington Market. And I was just going to tattoo shops like every weekend. I'd go to as many tattoo shops as I could walk or transit to, and I'd bring my portfolio, and I'd just be like, hey, do you have a minute? Like, do you think you can give me any advice on this? If I had money, I'd get a tattoo, and then after the tattoo, I'd be like, hey, do you have any advice on this? Because it's better to pay them for their time. Then you don't feel like you're bugging them as much. But I would just bug these people really hard and be like, I just got their advice over and over and over and over. And I just kept changing the portfolio, adding pieces, taking their advice, and then going back, a week later, and just kept that going. And then one day, someone came into my bar, and they were like, we're actually looking for a tattoo artist. Oh, it's so funny that you do that. And I was like, I have my portfolio on me right now. And they just had me in for an interview and hired me there. So it was cool. Yeah, but it took a lot of grinding. But I was just fascinated, really. It's like, I don't know. It's really immediately gratifying tattooing people. It's like they walk away with like a thing, and they're like, "Oh shit!" It's like sometimes crazy. Like changes their body forever. The first time I went into a tattoo shop, I got my eyebrow pierced, and I was like 15 or something, and it was called Creative Chaos in Brantford, and they've got a big of I don't know, they have a bit of a history. It's kind of a funny place, but it's very like traditional. It's kind of scary, checkered floors and like bikery vibe. The smell in there immediately, like it brings me back when I smell Dettol today or green soap. So yeah, and again, I was 15 and I was like, whoa, this is crazy. These people are crazy. You know, I couldn't believe that you could just choose to like do that, to just get covered in tattoos. You're like putting things on your body permanently. I thought it was wild. Now it's like, frig, look at me. The first tattoo I ever got was this tree here. It's the logo for this music venue called the Ford Plant from Brantford. Closed down years ago. I like really grew up there, listening to music, seeing live shows every weekend. It was a crazy place. It was very like DIY feeling, small community. And when it closed, eventually I moved to Toronto a couple years after it closed, and I still had some friends here that I met back there, and a couple of us like independently just decided to go get tattoos of the logo. And so I think I was like maybe 20 or 21 or something, and I woke up in my tiny new Toronto apartment, and I woke up and I just like, for some reason, was super inspired to get this, and I like had my laptop and I put a piece of paper up against the logo that I could find because I didn't have a printer, and I'm like, I want exactly this, and I sized it out, and I took a pencil and like traced it over the screen of the laptop, and I brought it in, and I was just like, I want this, and they're like, just like that? I'm like, yeah, and they slapped it on, and I was stoked. But I only had one tattoo for like 4 years, I think. And then I had my like epiphany that I was like, I want to be covered in tattoos, and I just started going out like every time I had a spare $100. Yeah. I really like lore in art. So, you know, whether it be, you know, I have like religious symbolism on myself. You know, I was raised Catholic. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm Catholic or anything, but I like the lore behind it and the mythology and stuff. So anything that kind of has that implied thing. The tattoo I did today that you watched was Ray. It's nice to draw for people you know, right? So like for her, I know that she's really into like witchcraft and stuff, and like I'm pretty into that kind of thing too. And she has like an indigenous background, and you know, they have their own herbs and plants and flowers, and both for medicinal reasons and then like symbolism and stuff, right? So it's like, it was like a rabbit. It's like a moon rabbit, which is like a Chinese thing, but rabbits in like Native American folklore are like, well, like bountiful harvest, right? Like there's some berries in there, and it's kind of like we're going into wintertime. They're also seen as like innocent sometimes, and it's like, it was like a dead rabbit, so it's kind of like the death of innocence. It was surrounded by like specific flowers and things, you know, that I thought she'd think were cool, just little symbols and stuff. And that's kind of what I like. Witchy, spooky vibes, spooky looking things, but I try to make sure each like aspect has like a meaning to it. People who want to get into the tattoo game, you know, I'm not that strong of a gatekeeper. There's like a lot of opinions out there. I kind of feel like the fact is people are going to want to learn to tattoo. It is a little sad and sometimes sickening to see the way people go about it. As I said, my beginnings were rough, and I was still, you know, making bad tattoos on people that for a little while trying to figure it out. But you know, now you can just order a machine off of Amazon, and a lot of people, if they can't get into a shop within the first few months, they'll probably do that. You know, they're just going to be tattooing their friends and start their own shop. And our industry is really reaching this point right now of oversaturation. You need to compete. You need to be highly competitive by being a better artist. You're feeling it now, eh?
Yeah.
There's a million people out there doing these little dinky tattoos as scratchers in their house or in private studios. And if you want to beat them out of the race, I think you need to do a traditional apprenticeship. Like, it's way better. And, as I said, they all look different to different people, to different shops. Different mentors have different ways of doing things, but you need to have someone teach you. You can't learn from YouTube. You can learn some things, but you're never going to be good. You're going to learn a horrible bunch of mistakes, and it's going to take you forever to unlearn those things. And you just need someone who's good, standing over your shoulder, guiding you. And I don't know, people hate hearing that on threads. It's always going off, all these people who are like, oh, you're gatekeeping. Like, no, for your own self, you should respect the tradition, because the tradition and the history of it, you learn from that. You find these old guys that revolutionized tattooing back then, and you study their work, and that's how you get better, I feel like. And a lot of people now don't know any of these names. I don't even, so I hang out with older people than me. I love when they're name dropping stuff and I learn something new and I have to go look it up. You need that, and tattooing's kind of losing that for younger people, and if a whole generation overturns where no one's like sharing that information, it's going to just go away. It's going to disappear, and tattooing is going to become more superficial. It already is. It's like people just want like that little Pinterest line work cat or something, and they don't care about the stuff behind it, and that's fine too. But we need the history, the lore. I told you, the lore is important.